The unseen ledger, more than just bricks and mortar. Some folks think construction is just about building things. You see a skyscraper rise from a hole in the ground, a new bridge spanning a river, a house taking shape where there was once just an empty lot. It's easy to focus on the steel, the concrete, and the wood. But there's another ledger being kept on every single job site, one that does not track materials or man-hours. It tracks risk. It tracks close calls, and too often it tracks tragedies. The work is essential, no doubt about it. We need the roads, the buildings, and the infrastructure, but the people who build it all are even more essential. The truth is, building our world is a dangerous business. For every story of triumph, a project finished on time and under budget, there's a potential story of disaster lurking in the shadows. A simple statistic tells a sobering tale. A huge chunk of all fatal accidents in construction come from just 4 things. They call them the Fatal 4. Why we have rules. A look at the job site battlefield. A construction site is what you might call a dynamic environment. That's a polite way of saying it's constantly changing, chaotic, and filled with things that can hurt you. One day you're pouring a foundation in a muddy pit, and the next you're framing walls 3 stories up in the air. Heavy materials swing overhead on cranes. Powerful tools scream and cut through dense materials. Massive machines rumble across uneven ground. It's a controlled battle against physics and the elements, and in any battle, you need rules of engagement to keep your soldiers safe. Without them, it's just a free-for-all. The stakes are incredibly high, and not just for the individual worker. A family might lose its primary breadwinner. A crew loses a skilled member and a friend. The company faces fines, legal battles, and a damaged reputation that can be hard to repair. The project itself grinds to a halt, leading to costly delays that impact everyone down the line. Safety is not an expense. It's an investment that protects the single most valuable asset on any job: the people doing the work. This is why we have safety regulations. They were not dreamed up in some quiet office by people who have never set foot on a job site. Many of these rules are written in the blood of workers who came before us. They are the hard-won lessons from past tragedies. Every rule about fall protection exists because too many people fell. Every rule about trench shoring exists because too many trenches collapsed. These regulations provide a clear, standardized framework for identifying hazards and controlling them before they can cause harm. They create a baseline of acceptable risk. So when you hear someone complain about a safety rule slowing things down, remind them what the alternative looks like. It looks like an ambulance. It looks like a grieving family. It looks like a project shut down with yellow tape around it. The rules are there to transform a potentially lethal environment into a manageable workplace. They force us to pause, to think, and to plan. They turn the chaotic battlefield of a construction site into a place where skilled professionals can do their jobs effectively and, most importantly, safely. The goal is not to make the job easy. It is to make it survivable. The sheriff on the site, understanding OSHA's role. When we talk about safety rules in the United States, one name inevitably comes up: OSHA. That stands for the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. You can think of OSHA as the sheriff for the American workplace. Their job is to make sure employers are providing a work environment that is free from recognized hazards that are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. They were established by Congress back in 1970 because far too many people were getting hurt or killed on the job. They set the standards, and they have the authority to enforce them. OSHA's rulebook for construction is thick for a reason. It covers just about every activity you can imagine, from the proper way to set up a ladder to the complex procedures for working with high-voltage electricity. These standards are not suggestions. They are the law of the land. They dictate minimum requirements for things like fall protection systems, scaffolding assembly, electrical safety, personal protective equipment, communicating the dangers of hazardous chemicals. It's an employer's responsibility to know these rules, implement them on their sites, and ensure their workers are trained to follow them. Now, some states have their own versions of OSHA, often called state plans. These state-level agencies are allowed to exist as long as their rules are at least as effective as the federal OSHA standards. In some cases, state plans are even stricter, with lower height thresholds for fall protection or more specific training requirements. So, it is not enough to just know the federal rules. You have to know the local laws of the jurisdiction you're working in. Ignorance of the law is never an excuse, especially when people's lives are on the line. Ultimately, OSHA's power comes from its ability to conduct inspections and issue citations. An OSHA inspector can show up on a job site at any time, announced or unannounced, and conduct a thorough walkthrough. If they find violations, they can issue fines that can range from a few $1,000s to hundreds of thousands for willful or repeated offenses. In the most extreme cases, they can refer a case for criminal prosecution. They are the accountability mechanism that ensures the rules are not just words on a page, but are actively practiced in the field. The usual suspects, common violations, and how they happen. If you spend enough time on different job sites, you start to see the same mistakes over and over again. OSHA inspectors see them too. Their list of top violations rarely changes from year to year. These are the usual suspects, the common sense errors that continue to put people in the hospital. At the top of the list, you'll almost always find issues with fall protection, a roofer working without a harness, a carpenter on an upper floor with no guardrails, someone on a scissor lift with the chain gate open. Falls are the #1 killer. Yet the most basic precautions are still the most frequently ignored. Another repeat offender is scaffolding. A properly erected scaffold is a safe and stable work platform, but a poorly built one is a death trap. Scaffolds missing guardrails, scaffolds without proper planking, scaffolds set up on soft, unstable ground. Sometimes they are overloaded with too many workers or materials. Ladders are another big one. People use the wrong type of ladder for the job. They set it up at a dangerous angle, or they stand on the top step. These are not complex engineering failures. They are fundamental mistakes in setting up basic equipment. Electrical hazards are also rampant. Frayed extension cords held together with electrical tape, power tools with missing ground prongs, temporary wiring run through puddles of water. Electrocution is silent, fast, and deadly. Then there is excavation and trenching. A trench can collapse in seconds, burying a worker under thousands of pounds of soil. Yet crews will jump into a deep, unprotected trench to just get something done quickly, ignoring the need for proper shoring or sloping. It's a gamble that people lose with terrifying regularity. So why do these simple, preventable mistakes keep happening? Often, it comes down to a perceived conflict between speed and safety. The pressure to meet a deadline can lead supervisors and workers to cut corners. Sometimes it is a cost issue, companies trying to save a few bucks by not buying the right safety gear. And sometimes it is just plain old complacency. I have done it this way 100 times and nothing bad has ever happened. But risk is cumulative. You can get away with it 99 times, but that 100th time is the one that changes everything. Let's talk about PPE, that is, personal protective equipment, and it is probably the most visible part of job site safety. Hard hat, safety glasses, steel-toed boots, high-visibility vest, gloves. Depending on the job, it might also include more specialized gear like fall arrest harness, respirator for dusty environments, hearing protection when you are around loud machinery. This gear is designed to protect you from specific hazards, and it is often the only thing standing between you and a serious injury. It is your personal armor for the job site battlefield. But here's the most important thing to understand about PPE. It is the last line of defense. The best way to stay safe is to eliminate or control a hazard at its source. For example, the safest way to prevent a fall is to install guardrails so no one can fall in the first place. A harness and lanyard, which are forms of PPE, do not stop you from falling. They stop you from hitting the ground after you have already fallen. PPE is there for when engineering controls and safe work practices are not enough. It reduces the severity of an accident when one happens. Under OSHA regulations, the employer has a clear responsibility. They must assess the hazards on their job site and then provide the appropriate PPE to their workers at no cost. They cannot make you buy your own hard hat or safety glasses. Furthermore, they are responsible for ensuring the equipment is in good, serviceable condition and that it fits the worker properly. A cracked hard hat or a poorly fitting harness is not just uncomfortable, it is useless. And most importantly, the employer must train each worker on how to properly use and care for their assigned PPE. For the worker, the responsibility is just as clear. You have to use it. All of it. All the time. A hard hat does not do you any good if it is sitting in your truck. Safety glasses cannot protect your eyes if they are pushed up on your forehead. It is your job to inspect your gear before each use. Keep it clean, and report any damage to your supervisor immediately. Wearing PPE can sometimes feel hot, cumbersome, or just plain annoying. But that momentary discomfort is nothing compared to the lifelong pain of a lost eye, a traumatic brain injury, or a broken body. Respect the work, respecting the risks, and most importantly, respecting the people who show up every day to do a dirty, difficult, and dangerous job. A safety plan on paper is one thing, but the reality on the ground is what truly matters. That's where site inspections come in. A proper inspection is not about trying to catch people doing something wrong. It is a proactive hunt for hazards. It is about walking the entire job site with a critical eye, looking for conditions that could lead to an accident before one occurs. It is the process of finding and fixing problems while they are still small. This simple act of regularly checking the work environment is one of the most effective safety tools a company has. These inspections should be a routine, scheduled part of the workday. Many of the best run sites start every single day with a walkthrough by the site superintendent or foreman. They are not just looking for the big, obvious dangers. They are looking for the little things too. An extension cord stretched across a walkway becomes a trip hazard. A pile of leftover lumber with nails sticking out is a puncture wound waiting to happen. A puddle of water near temporary electrical panels is an electrocution risk. Good inspections are detailed and methodical. Many supervisors use a checklist to make sure nothing gets overlooked. This list would cover all the major risk categories: fall protection systems, scaffolding and ladder conditions, electrical safety, tool and equipment condition, housekeeping, proper use of PPE. The checklist provides structure and ensures that even on a busy day, critical safety items are not forgotten. It creates a consistent standard for every inspection, regardless of who is conducting it. It is about turning a casual glance into a systematic review of the site's health and safety. The most crucial part of any inspection, though, is what happens after. Finding a hazard is only half the battle. The problem must be corrected immediately. If a guardrail is missing, work in that area stops until it is installed. If a tool is damaged, it gets taken out of service right away. And just as important is documenting everything. The inspection report should list what was found, what was done to fix it, and who is responsible. This creates a paper trail of accountability and helps identify recurring problems that might point to a need for better training or different procedures. You can give a worker the best tools and the finest safety equipment in the world, but if they do not know how to use them correctly, they are still in danger. That is why safety training is not just a box to be checked on a form, it is the foundation of a safe workplace. Effective training arms workers with the knowledge they need to recognize hazards, understand the risks associated with their specific tasks, follow the correct procedures to protect themselves and their coworkers. It transforms them from passive participants into active partners in their own safety. OSHA mandates specific training for a wide range of tasks and hazards. For example, any worker who might be exposed to a fall of 6 feet or more must be trained on how to recognize fall hazards and how to properly use fall protection systems. Anyone who has to enter a confined space like a manhole or a large tank needs extensive training on atmospheric testing and rescue procedures. Workers need to be trained on the safe operation of forklifts, cranes, other heavy equipment. This is not optional. It is a legal requirement for a very good reason. Good training goes beyond just reading from a manual or watching a video. The most effective training is hands-on, practical, specific to the job at hand. Show a crew how to properly inspect and don a fall harness. and then have them practice doing it themselves. Demonstrate the right way to assemble a section of scaffolding, do not just talk about it. Conduct fire extinguisher training where people actually get to pull the pin and put out a small controlled fire. And it is critical that the training is delivered in a language and vocabulary that the workers can understand. Safety training is also not a one-and-done event. The job site is always changing, and skills can get rusty. That is why regular, ongoing training is essential. Short toolbox talks held at the beginning of a shift are a great way to reinforce a specific safety message for the day's tasks. Annual refresher courses ensure that critical knowledge stays fresh in everyone's mind. When you invest in continuous training, you are investing in a culture where safety is a constant conversation, not just a topic that comes up after an accident has already happened. Let me tell you a story. I have seen this play out on too many job sites. Imagine a crew tasked with laying a new sewer pipe. The plan calls for a trench that is about 9 feet deep. The soil is a bit sandy, and it rained the day before. The foreman, under pressure to get the pipe in the ground before the end of the day, looks at the trench. The rules require a trench box or some form of shoring for any excavation deeper than 5 feet. But getting the trench box from the yard and setting it up will take at least an hour.
He makes a call. "Just jump in there and get it done," he tells a young worker. "It will only take you 10 minutes to connect that pipe. We will be in and out."
The worker, wanting to look like a team player, does not question the order. He slides into the deep, narrow trench. The walls look solid enough, but the weight of the excavated soil piled near the edge, combined with the vibrations from a nearby generator, is more than the unstable, damp soil can handle. In an instant, without a sound, one wall of the trench collapses, burying the worker under thousands of pounds of dirt. The 10-minute shortcut has just become a life-or-death recovery operation. The consequences are immediate and devastating. The crew frantically tries to dig him out with their hands, but it is like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. The fire department's specialized trench rescue team arrives, but it is a slow, dangerous process to secure the remaining walls before they can even begin to excavate. The project is shut down. OSHA investigators arrive and put the entire site under a microscope. The foreman and the company face massive fines for a willful violation, and potentially even criminal charges. The young worker's family gets a phone call that no family should ever have to receive. Now, let us rewind. Imagine a different foreman at a different site. He sees the same 9-foot trench and feels the same pressure from the schedule. But he stops. He tells his crew to hold off while he gets the trench box. It takes an hour and a half to get it delivered, lowered into place, and secured. The crew grumbles a bit about the delay, but once the box is in, the worker can enter the trench with complete protection. The walls cannot collapse on him. He connects the pipe safely, the job gets done, and at the end of the day, everyone goes home. That hour and a half was the best investment he made all year. It is the cost of doing business right. If you want to boil it all down, safety on a construction site is not about some secret formula. It is about consistently doing a handful of basic things right every single day. It is about discipline and attention to detail. If every worker and supervisor on every site followed a simple playbook, we could drastically reduce the number of injuries and fatalities. Think of these as the 10 commandments of the job site. They are not complicated, but they are incredibly effective if you take them to heart and put them into practice without fail. First, always plan your work. Before you start any task, think through the steps and identify the potential hazards. Second, use the right tool for the job, and make sure it is in good condition before you use it. Third, wear your required PPE. No excuses. Fourth, use proper fall protection anytime you are working at height. Guardrails, personal fall arrest systems, safety nets. Fifth, conduct daily inspections of your work area and your equipment. Look for problems before they find you. Sixth, never enter a trench over 5 feet deep unless it is properly shored, sloped, shielded. Seventh, keep your work area clean and organized. Good housekeeping prevents countless trips, slips, and falls. Eighth, know your electrical safety. Inspect cords, use GFCIs, and respect the power of electricity. Ninth, communicate clearly. Report any hazards or near-miss incidents to your supervisor immediately. A close call is a free lesson, so do not waste it. And 10th, if you have not been trained to do a task or you feel that it is unsafe, you have the right and the responsibility to stop and ask questions. Never assume. These rules are not just for the new guy. They are for everyone, from the most seasoned veteran to the site superintendent. Complacency is the enemy of safety, and it can creep in after years of doing the same thing. Following these basic rules requires constant vigilance from every single person on the crew. It is about creating a culture where looking out for one another is just part of the job description. This is not about being paranoid, it is about being a professional. Professionals take pride in their work, and they take pride in doing it safely. At the end of the day, a rule book is just a book. A safety vest is just a piece of fabric. Real safety, the kind that gets people home every night, comes from people. It comes from a culture that is built from the ground up and reinforced from the top down. It starts with leadership. When supervisors or managers demonstrate safety as a core value, workers follow. Provide the right equipment. Allow enough time to do the job safely. Invest in proper training. Leaders hold everyone accountable, including themselves. A supervisor who walks past without saying anything sends the message that rules do not matter. When they stop, have a respectful conversation, and insist the glasses be worn, they reinforce the standard for the entire crew. Make safe choices the easy choices. Reward workers who identify hazards. Correct unsafe behaviors constructively, without blame. Good leadership builds trust, the currency of a safe site. Safety is not just a manager's job. Every worker has a role. You are your brothers and sisters' keeper. If you see someone taking an unnecessary risk, speak up. It might be awkward for 30 seconds, but could prevent a lifetime of regret. See a hazard. Do not walk past assuming someone else will deal with it. Take ownership. Fix it if you can or report it immediately if you cannot. A safe site empowers everyone to act. Next time you step onto a job site, remember what is at stake. It is people's lives and livelihoods. Follow the rules. Use your training. Wear your gear. Look out for your crew. Stop the job if something feels wrong. The work is hard, dirty, dangerous. It does not have to be a death sentence. Embrace a culture of safety. Take the rules seriously. Look out for each other. Do the job right, and make sure everyone goes home at the end of the day. That is the real measure of a job well done. Safety and compliance in the American construction industry starts with you. Commit to the standards, protect your team, and lead by example. Subscribe to the channel for more construction safety insights, real-world examples, and step-by-step guides to keep your sites compliant and your crews safe.